Hello, nerds! We are doing another reaction video. We're doing back to the music, so we've got the bass, we're doing the things and the stuff. This is Static X. Sadly, I tried doing a Static X video for the last batch of reactions, and I don't know what happened, but it something messed up, so I couldn't do it again because that wouldn't be a legitimate reaction. So I had to wait for them to release another video, and thankfully, approximately 2 weeks later, 2 to 3 weeks later, I can't remember when the last time we did reaction videos was, they released another video. So we have time, we have a chance to make this up. This is going to be the makeup sessions, because the video we did previously was the makeup for the Comic-Con at Home weekend that I didn't get any of those trailers in, so we just did them all at once. Now we're making up Static X, and then I think the next video is going to be making up for a new band that I can't remember the name of because I don't have the screen up. But yes, it's the old Five Finger Death Punch drummer's new band that he's the singer for, which is interesting. I also lost a video from them. I know what happened to that one, though, so we're not going to make that same mistake. I am rambling. Let's do the intro, shall we? Okie dokie. So, history with the band. My history with Static X is interesting. Not the most storied history, I have to admit, but I do like me some Static X. Pardon me real quick. Probably should have pulled up their information before I started filming, but you know, whatever. Okay, so this is off the Project Regeneration record, which we all know is the posthumous record for Wayne Static, as he passed away a few years ago, and then a couple years later, his wife also passed away, which is very sad and tragic, unfortunately. So, Wayne Static, I think, is a very unique style, unique kind of musician, not necessarily style of musician. Yes, he definitely has his own sound, so style would be an appropriate word too. But I'm going to go for kind this time around, because I think he's kind of a genius, but I think that's also partially only when he's surrounded by the right people. The first two Static X records are phenomenal. Some of the best industrial metal you're ever going to listen to. Wisconsin Death Trip is easily one of the top 10 industrial metal records ever. And then Machine also kind of very much follows suit with that. And then they started going through a lot of lineup changes. They started losing members and gaining members and so on and so forth. We have Shadow Zone and Start a War after that. I think that's when Trip Ison joined the band. Cannibal was an okay record, and then Cult of Static I didn't listen to anything off of. So I can't speak to that one. Project Regeneration is, so the first video, I can speak to this because we did a reaction video that kind of died. The first video that we got from this, so the first song that I've heard off of Project Regeneration was pretty damn good. I really dug it. Definitely back in the vein of that older Static X that I do love so much. Still not quite as good as that, even though it is the original lineup, including Wayne. And then live, they have somebody calling themselves Zero, who I recently have basically figured out. I feel like everyone has figured out that it's Edsel Dope. Like, with the whole Trip Ison controversy going on right now, it's been made clear that it's Edsel Dope singing for Static X, which kind of makes sense because they were really friends. So, yeah. That's kind of, I mean, so yeah. And then the Pig Hammer record, I think there was only the one. I'm only aware of the one anyway, and I just closed the wiki, so I can't pull it back up. But the Pig Hammer record, which was Wayne Static doing stuff on his own, I also listened to a bit of that. And again, it was pretty good, but it's not as good as those first two Static X records, because Machine and Wisconsin Death Trip, again, some of the best industrial metal you're going to listen to. If you have not listened to them and you like that genre, please go do that. So that being said, that's kind of where I am with this band. A little bit of a history of the band. I mean, we're not going to touch, it's not going to be a history lesson. So next up comes the disclaimer, and I have a video for this. It's just not edited together and put into OBS, which is what I record these through. So sadly, we got to do it the old-fashioned way. So this is your disclaimer. I am a musician. I have been a musician for a very long time, something like 30 years. I have been a professional musician for something like 20 years and a producer for right about that same amount of time. I went to school for audio production, so I know what I'm talking about on that side of things. And then as far as video production, I've been doing that professionally for approximately 10 years. So I know what I'm talking about there as well. All of that is just to say that, yes, people do things differently, and my opinion is my opinion. I am here to tell you what I feel like is working in a certain recording or on the video, or is not working, and why. And also, hopefully, to help you have a better appreciation for these things and to increase your vocabulary to defend your stance on why you do or do not like a certain thing when it comes to music or video production. That being said, let's get into the song, because I'm really kind of chomping at the bit. Not gonna lie. Oh, also, part of the disclaimer, if you want to listen to this song, then please go listen to the song or watch the video. We're going to stop it. I'm going to talk over it. Probably going to play a little bit over it. That's why we've got the bass here. So all of these things are going to happen. If you want to watch this video without me, then go do it. If I hear another comment of, man, you should just shut up and let the video play, that's not what we do here. This is a reaction and analysis video, not just a let's watch. So, that being said, now we're going to get into this. Song is Bring You Down. You know that already. Let's jump into it. I love the programming. I think that's one of the things that really makes Static X work for me. And the heavy. Okay, so first off, we have a really great breakdown coming into this song. And one thing that I love about older bands like this, bands from this era, I guess I should say, because these guys aren't exactly old. I mean, they're older than, like, Bad Wolves or whoever the hell else is popular these days. But I'm talking about the era of music that they come from. It wasn't super interested in being overly technical necessarily. These guys kind of were around the same time as nu metal, kind of the tail end of that. So the technicality, while sometimes it is there, is not the focus. So when you do a really awesome bridge kind of breakdown section like we just got at the intro of this song, it's really easy to just nod your head and you're not trying to count, all right, here's the downbeat and here's the downbeat. You know, you can just get into the groove. Granted, I love the super technical kind of stuff. Born of Osiris and Jason Richardson. That kind of stuff is amazing, and that is the stuff that I aspire to play eventually myself. I am not that guy. I'm not that guitar player. I can't do the sweep picking. I'm just I feel like I'm a pretty good songwriter, but whatever. So yeah, the groove was the focus, and I think that's another reason why Static X really works for me, is because I'm very groove oriented when it comes to my music appreciation, and a lot of other people are too. So that's why they were so popular. The reason I'm saying this is because this isn't a gent kind of how weird can we make this breakdown. This is just a solid in your face. Here we are. This is the groove for the song kind of setup, and that's effective. I like it. We're moving on. All right, production note. And this is different from the last song. It's the same record. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't remember the name of the last song, so I apologize. I didn't put out the video again because it got lost or whatever. So for aggressive stuff like this, and actually something that they established is a thing for Static X to some degree with the last song that I did, is. Can you listen? The drive. You hear that distortion on my bass? Drive on the bass is something that helps because heavy bands notoriously tune very, very low. So in order to make the bass still kind of punch in the mix, you add just a touch. Like there's not a whole lot of distortion on here, but when I let it go, you can hear that it's there for sure. Chords probably help. So this is a clean bass tone. It's a good bass tone, but it's so low. You really have to be cranking it, which is again a style thing because how else would you listen to something like this unless it was cranked? That's what the headphones are for, right? So, but I still feel like there is a methodology to mixing bass that, I mean, if he's not going to go for an overdriven kind of tone to make it punch a little bit more, then it's on the producer to bring it up in the mix. The bass is an instrument that I am totally cool with scooping. You take the sonics, you take the EQ, and you scoop. You bring up the low end, you bring up the high end, and that kind of gives it a different kind of character. Whereas with guitar, you want a little bit more of those midtones because that's where the color lives, and guitar is all about color. Bass is all about drive. So you want those bottom ends. You also want that high end to be a little bit more punchy. I feel like that's not going on here, but I do like about this section so far, I do like the way it's being orchestrated. There's a build here that is culminating to something, and we're about to find out what that is. So let's keep going. He's in here. All right. I'm loving this bass mix more and more as I'm listening to it, but I still feel like a little bit of overdrive or a better EQ is called for sure. But I'm really liking what we just heard there. We're gonna go back and listen to it again. We got a really great mix. Once the entire band kicks in full on, once we get to that fortissimo, that's not, I get brain fart. I can't think of the word. But once we get to the crescendo, I guess we're gonna go with that one. And everything's going, you can still hear the bass. Even with the volume down a little bit, I would imagine you're still gonna be able to hear that bass. And that speaks well for two different people involved in making this song. One is the bass player. Two is the producer, because the tone, while it is a little bit muddy, is still present, and you can hear what he's doing. And then two, the bass player is playing something that's not just the root note of what the guitar is doing. So props to both of them, even though I still feel like that tone is super muddy. So listen. You can hear it rumble down there. And then he jumps up. And then he jumps up to that 5 in the chord. A lot of open B. Ooh, that was a little anticlimactic. Listen to the rumble, and then he... So, again, in spite of that EQ, this bass mix in this, and we'll talk about the drums too in just a second, but this bass mix is just really well done. I just wish it was EQ'd that much better. Because even when he's up here playing in whatever the chord was that he was playing in, like, you don't lose. You lost him there for a second, as we got into that other bridge. You lost him there for a second in the mix, but it came right back down. Once he hits those low Bs, man, he is definitely very present and very driving in this mix, and that's great. So the drum tone, I am a big fan of for a number of reasons, not the least of which is because everything has the right amount of reverb. So we've talked a number of times on these episodes about drum tone and how in the early 80s, or throughout the 80s rather, drum tone was, let's just throw reverb on everything so it sounds like you're in an empty hall, and it was god-awful. In the 90s, it got scaled back a bit, what with grunge and all that. The grunge sound was a little bit more purposeful with its verb, and you still had a lot of super heavy verb, though, on like snare drums and kick drums, but then the rest of the kit, they definitely toned down. And then towards the end of the 90s and through the 2000s, that became, well, let's just put it on the snare and maybe a touch on the kick. And now I feel like we've got it dialed in as a community to a point where it's just, if you're doing the industry standard drum tone, you're doing something right. There are other kinds of drum tone. Definitely, you don't have to be a follower. You can definitely have your own drum sound when you're mixing things or when you're playing. But generally speaking, there are hallmarks to good drum tone, and this has pretty much all of them. You've got a good solid thump with the kick. You have good resonance with your snare. Your hi-hats are a good clean wash. There's not any verb on those hi-hats. I haven't been able to really pick out any of the toms yet, so I can't tell if there's any verb on the toms, but it doesn't sound like there's much, if any, verb on the kick, and there's just enough verb on the snare to really make it beefy and present and powerful, and it sounds really good. All right, there was a tom, I think. That resonant tail on that little. Here, we'll go back. Right there. So in the drum, you hear the boom. That's a floor tom. A little more resonance than I probably would have done in the mix. That I feel like you could use a little bit of a noise gate there just to kind of taper that resonance a little bit, but nothing super offensive to my ears. So I'm gonna say this right now. I feel my mind is going, my discontent showing, and now I know. See, there it is. It kind of rolls off a little too long. I've got to bring you down. I've got to bring you down. No, I'll never pull you under. Oh, and now we do have verb on those cymbals. So in that little bridge right there, they put verb on the cymbals because the impact noise is a lot. There's a lot more room between impacts, but you still had it resonating longer than it would have if there wasn't reverb on there. So it makes sense. I don't know if I would have done it that way, but it totally makes sense that it still works in this mix. So like I was saying, you don't have to do industry standard sound, especially if you're trying to do something very specific in a section of a song. That's again, it works really well. I don't know if I would have done that though. Nice. I really like this Project Regeneration record. Now that I've finally done a proper reaction video for it, and it looks like I have all my audio, so I didn't make that mistake. Definitely probably gonna go get this record because, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really like Static X though, so I mean that is what it is. As far as the video goes, it's nothing really. It's basically a performance video. There's not a whole lot going on there that's like challenging or anything like that. There's a lot of After Effects going on. There's a lot of the lightning going up the neck of Zero, who is the stand-in for Wayne. There's a lot of like blurry effects and so on and so forth, but that's not a whole lot of difficult cinematography, which, I mean, it's a music video, so difficult cinematography is not necessarily the name of the game. Very effective performance video, though. Very effective song. I love. Here's something to walk away from with this. If you haven't heard it before, Wayne, I believe it was when he was doing a interview for Wisconsin Death Trip. And he was asked to describe his sound. The interviewer said, "How would you describe what you sound like to somebody who's never heard your music before?" And his response, and after you hear this, you can never unhear it. His response was, "It's kind of like evil disco." And now it's like, yeah, especially those first two records, and this record here is definitely. I can see that evil disco sound. Like that is. He's kind of brilliant, and that's one of the reasons why I love Wayne Static. So, that being said, bring you down, whatever, bring something down. I like the song; it's great. I'm a big fan of Static X, though, as we established with the intro. That being said, guys, that's where we're going to end this. What did you think of the tune? What did you think of my analysis of the way things are sounding? Guitar, we don't talk really a whole lot about guitar on here. The guitar is an interesting instrument. That is one of the instruments I play, but it's so personal. Like there's a lot about the bass that's very personal as well. But I feel like distortion, because the guitar, one of the main effects of a guitar is the distortion, and like you got guys like Kurt Ballou in Converge and so on and so forth that just are speaking like it's a religion to them. It's really difficult for me to be critical of guitar tone unless it's like horrendous. And something like this that's this polished is not a horrendous guitar tone. So that's why we didn't really talk about the guitar. Yeah, anyway, sorry, rambling. We're ending this. What did you guys think? What did you think of my analysis? What did you think of... Are you down with the Static X? Because I totally am. Let's have all of those conversations down in the comments section right about now as we do our nifty little transition. You should be seeing the two boxes right here below my face. Subscribe in the center. The two boxes will take you to other things going on right here on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to smash that like button. Help me out right here on the channel. It's all free. You don't have to do any of the other things, like go to the website, generallynerdy.net, which is also free. You can go check that out. Or go to patreon.com/generallynerdy. That's where the payment comes in. You don't have to do that, but I would love you that much more if you did. Thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. I am Generally Nerdy, and this has been my reaction. Before we head out, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.